Well, gestures are very important because they do not rely on a special code, so you don't have to learn any language or any other specific code to understand a gesture, in particular the pointing gesture. So when I point to something, what it does to you is it directs your attention to that thing. So all you have to do is you have to infer why someone is pointing at something and what it is that someone is pointing at. But you do not need to know anything about the language. And so the beautiful thing is, if you travel to another country, you don't know the language of that country. Nevertheless, you can communicate quite a bit, for example, by pointing to the things that are relevant to you. Well, parents interact in very interesting ways with their infants in the first few years of life, because they are, in some sense, providing a scaffold for infant development. So infants have difficulties in expressing their thoughts fully and their desires and intentions because they still lack language. But parents do a lot of interpretive work, so parents can try to understand what the infant is doing and offer some solutions and answers to the infant's communicative attempts. So the way parents play with their infants is, and interact with their infants is very important in the sense that they guide infants to grow into the practice of communicating with each other. Regarding cultural differences in parent-infant interactions, there are two things to note. One is that there are, of course, on a broad scale, lots of similarities. So all parents nurture their infants, all parents care about their infants across the world. So there's no question that all parents interact with their infants in one or another way. But the specifics, how this is achieved and how this is done, vary quite a bit across cultures. And so, for example, you have on the one end the culture we are most familiar with, our own culture, in which we produce a lot of objects like toys that help interact with our infants. And we focus a lot on our infants. And in other cultures, like for example in the Yucatec Mayans in Mexico, where we have done research, but in many other places around the world, infants are carried in a sling or things like that, and they are taken to work, to the field. There are no toys designed to interact with the infants, or not so many. And so in these places, it seems, and this is what we are interested in, that the amount of input directed at infants is different, and also the quality is different. And so the big question for us is, does that change infant development in any specific way? And I can tell you a few findings on this. So for example, what we've been doing research on is the pointing gesture. Infants start pointing. In all the places we have been to, all infants do this. So all infants point with the index finger at something that seems to be interesting. But the exact age when this happens seems to depend a lot on how much they are immersed in interactions with their parents. So parents who take their infants serious and interact with them in a lot of ways, it seems that it's more likely that those infants start pointing at things earlier.